Hi friends, I'm Felicia. Welcome back to my channel. So today is November 22nd and I'm going to film my October wrap-up. I did already film this video, but as I was filming it I knew in my heart that I was not going to be happy with it because I was not making sense. And I was rambling forever. So we're going to try again today. So before I get to the books that I actually read, I want to highlight something for you that is very fun and exciting. Is that my husband has illustrated his second children's book. And so this is the proof, obviously. And this is the Kite Festival. And the authors are a couple that go to our church. Brian and Jen Clausen, and Christopher Barkman is my husband. And this is the second book in this series. And what else to say? These stories are stories that Brad was telling when he was teaching in kids' church. He started telling these stories about Junior Bear and Mr. Bear, his dad. And they would be like ways that he could retell Bible stories in ways that are maybe more child-friendly. The first story that he had to tell was the story of Abraham sacrificing Isaac. So he was like, how am I going to teach this to 6-year-olds? And so he came up with this character of Junior Bear and Mr. Bear. And from then on, he's had a lot of stories. And so now they're starting to publish them. And Chris is illustrating them. And I think that I'm maybe a little biased with the art. I think the art is amazing. But the story is actually really good too. This is like a retelling. This is a retelling of, I just pulled up my booktube lingo here, of the time. I was going to say parable. It's not a parable. It happened when Jesus healed the lepers and only one came back to say thank you. So that is what this story is. And I will show you some of the art. I'm going to show you this picture because this mouse is my favorite. He's just, and then these guys in the corner, look at them. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. Okay, so yeah, and then this is the page with the Kite Festival, and like, look at that. So, I mean, if you want to buy books for kids for Christmas, I would recommend this one and the first one. I will leave a link to where you can buy them down below. So that out of the way, Chris really wanted me to talk about that and I wanted to highlight it as well. Storm is staring at me, so that's fun. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the books that I read now. October was Victober, which is very fun. I love Victorian literature. Like, every time I read it, I'm just like, dang, I love this. So I definitely need to read more of it throughout the year and not just wait until October, because that's not really fair to myself, is it? I finished 2 books that were for October, and I got most of the way through a third, which you'll find out about with my November wrap-up. But yeah, so the first one that I finished was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And I listened to the audiobook narrated by Ben Barnes. And I had never read Dorian Gray before. And to me, it was 3 stars. I didn't love it. I think it was just like too much. I don't know. Like, were there any women in this book? I don't even know. It was just like men talking and being men. I think there was one lady. That's right. There was 2 women. Okay, anyways. But yeah, it was okay. Not my favorite. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about it. And then I read another book for Victober that also I was reading for the Hey Readathon, which was hosted by Chantal at An Intentional Life. And I'll leave her channel down below. She makes really good content, so if you're not following her, you should definitely check her out. And so the book that I read that overlapped was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. and that was actually a reread for me. I read it last year for Victober as well. Also, like, I was super into just like creepy books in October, which you will again see more. You will see more of as I go on. And I listened to the audiobook narrated by Richard Armitage, and I really liked it. I liked it just as much as the first time. And, like, first of all, Richard Armitage could just read every book, because he just has such a great voice. And I liked it. I don't really have anything else to add to that either. I thought it was a great story. Okay, so now, the rest of the books that I read for the Hey Readathon. I read Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and Faith Erin Hicks, and that was a very popular book this year. My cat is being very distracting. She got a post-it stuck to her foot and then just froze. Oh my goodness, she's so funny. Anyways, so Pumpkinheads. I felt like everyone was reading that in October, so that was very popular. And it's a story, it's a graphic novel about two kids in grade 12. To me, they're kids already. In grade 12, and every October that they've been in high school, they've worked at this pumpkin patch, and so they're going to be graduating and going off to college, so this is going to be their last year working at the pumpkin patch, and it's just kind of about their adventure doing the things that they never got to do since they've been working there. So yeah, thought it was fun, and I like the art style, and yeah, that's about it. Then I joined in with a buddy read, a group read of My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier, and that was also a reread for me. I did a lot of rereads in October. Okay, so My Cousin Rachel, basically, the basic plot is that this guy, Philip, he's our main character, this guy, Philip, his cousin has been his guardian basically his whole life, and his cousin goes to Italy for the winter and ends up meeting a woman there and getting married. And so he ends up staying there, and then after a year or so, he dies, and now Philip is kind of thrown into this grieving situation when he didn't even know that he was sick or anything. And so now he is trying to figure out what happened, and his cousin's widow comes to the estate from Italy, and he's just trying to figure out if he can trust her or what's up with this lady. And to me, the book felt very Victorian, and so I kept wanting to count it against my Victober reads, but it is not Victorian. It doesn't actually say when it's set, and so to me, I just say that it is set during the Victorian period. I really like that book. I definitely want to read more Daphne du Maurier in the future. And yeah, that one I listened to the audiobook narrated by Jonathan Pryce, which I would recommend. Then I read the first book in the Avatar graphic novel series, which is The Promise. That's volume 1. The bind-ups, I guess. I don't know what this is. Basically picks up not too long after the main TV show ends. And yeah, I don't really know if I can tell you what happens, if it's spoilers for the TV show or not. They're just trying to figure out life in this new world. That's basically it. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, so I definitely love these graphic novels. And this was a reread for me. I haven't read all of them. I think I've read the first 3. So yeah, and I just found out that they're writing more now. I think Faith Erin Hicks actually is continuing on with that series. So this one is written by Jean Luen Yang, so I don't think I said that. But yeah, would recommend if you're a fan of the TV show. Then I read the book that I'm just the most sad about ever. I read The End of the Ocean by Maya Lund. And, I mean, the cover is up here or here, whichever side I decide to do it while I'm editing. And this was the cover buy for me. And I just feel very upset because I hated the book. There was nothing that I actively enjoyed. There were lots of things I actively disliked. And I just feel very upset at this book. That I have it. That I paid full price for it. And that it has such a beautiful cover and it's such a terrible story. So Myland is writing this, I guess, a companion series about different climate issues. So I read her first book earlier this year, which was The History of Bees, which I didn't like. But then I was like, maybe this one would be better, and it was maybe worse. I'm not sure. Basically, it's set in two timelines. In the earlier timeline, it's about this woman who is trying to fight against people that are like harvesting ice from a glacier. And then in the later timeline, there's like massive droughts in Europe, and people are losing their homes because of wildfires. And so this man and his young daughter are on a quest. No, they're on a journey north, and he's also missing his wife and young son. And so we are going back and forth between these two timelines, and the thing is that nothing happened. I didn't like the writing, and this author writes really weird sex things in her books. It was in the first book, and it was in this book, and I just was very disturbed. I didn't like it, and so I'm going to not be reading any more of her books. I don't know what I'm going to do with this book. I feel very mad at it, so I'm probably just going to get rid of it and buy like an art print of this artist's work. Scott Naismith is the artist, because that's amazing and doesn't deserve to be on this trash of a book. So I would not recommend that you pick it up. Don't do it. So that's what I read for the Hey Readathon, to bring that down a notch. Okay, but then I read some really good books. I read Recursion by Blake Crouch. Holy crap. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Listened to an audiobook narrated by John Lindstrom and Abby Craden. And I don't want to say too much about it because I really knew nothing. And I think that's best. Basically, it's really twisty, topsy-turvy sci-fi, where basically we start off, the main character is a detective, and he keeps getting called to these cases of people who have this thing that they're starting to call false memory syndrome, where all of a sudden they just have like a shift in their brain, and all of a sudden they remember like all of this life, this false life that they didn't live, that isn't theirs, but they experience it as though they did. And so this false life that didn't happen doesn't line up with like what they're living now. And so it's very confusing. A lot of people try to commit suicide because they can't handle it, and so he keeps getting called to these like jumpers and like trying to talk them down, right? So that's kind of where we start, and so he's trying to investigate like what this is. And then we're also following a lady that is working on basically trying to find a cure for Alzheimer's. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I love this book. It definitely went places that I just like had no idea how we were going to get there, or that we would go there. It has one of my favorite tropes ever, and I can't tell you because that's a spoiler, but it has one of my favorite tropes that I just love in books and movies. Love it. So, and I read Dark Matter earlier. Yeah, it was earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, before the pandemic, in the before times. Feels like forever ago. But I think I like this one even more than Dark Matter, which most people don't say, but I'm saying it. So if you like sci-fi, try Blake Crouch because it's good stuff. Okay. Then I reread, for the 4th time, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. One of my top 5 books ever. I think I can say that with confidence. Top 5, at least. If you're not familiar with Station 11, I think you should read it because it's one of my favorite books, and I think that is perfect. But basically, there's a pandemic that happens. A virus wipes out like 99.9% of the world's population within the span of a month. Like, it's very fast. Basically, once you get it, you're dead within 48 hours. We follow 3 different timelines. I love a story that follows different timelines. While the pandemic is happening, 20 years after the pandemic, and years before the pandemic. And there's a character that kind of links all of the other characters together, which I also love in books. And that's basically that's the basic premise. Why do I keep saying basically? It's the basic premise. Yep. And it's just one of my favorite books. And I found it actually really comforting to read right now. I was just like kind of on my Kindle looking for an ebook to read, and I saw it and I was like, I'm going to and then I just started reading it. I didn't even think about it. And to me, it was actually comforting to read because, first of all, yes, things are bad right now in the world, but like it doesn't kill you in 48 hours. So that's good. I've read this book so many times that I kind of know where things are going. So to come into a familiar story is comforting. I love Emily St. John Mandel's writing. I love it so much. She's brilliant. I only have one more book left of hers to read, which is the Lola Quartet. And then I've read all of her books. And all of them have just been amazing. So, yeah. And it's just great. It's just one of those books. It just is so good. So good and comforting to me. So, there's that. Read Station 11 if you haven't. I know some people don't like it. I don't understand you, but then also I kind of can maybe see why you don't like it. But to me, I love it. Okay, then I read The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I listened to the audiobook narrated by Imogen Church. A side note, we were working on renos in October and beginning of November, which is why it's taking me so long to film this video and why I listened to so many audiobooks, because I did not have time to sit down and read. So basically all those audiobooks that I listened to at work. Okay, but yeah. So The Turn of the Key, I don't know if it's a retelling or if it's inspired by The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. I've never read it, so I don't know. I've heard mixed things about this book, and I think I would fall on the not loving it side. I thought that, okay, so basically, a woman from London becomes a nanny to a wealthy family that lives in Scotland, in like this really remote estate, I guess. And she works there for like a day, and then the parents have to go away to a conference or something, and creepy things are happening with the kids in the house. So she's trying to figure out what's going on and not lose her mind. And it's a smart house, which has just convinced me that I would never want a smart house because it's terrible and unnecessary. But yeah, okay, so I thought that the writing was good, but then at the same time, I just felt really, I don't know, we got to the end, and all of the things that happened, and all of the build-up just kind of fell flat at the very end. There was one reveal at the end that I was shook. My jaw dropped. But then that wasn't the main reveal. It was like just a twist. Sorry if you feel like this is too much spoilers. If you want to read this book still. But then we get to like the very end. And all is revealed. And I was like, that was it? Really? For all of this? Gosh. So yeah. I don't know. If you want to read it, go ahead. If you were on the fence, I would say don't. And there was quite a lot of cursing. And it has, you know, the trope of young single nanny sees the hot groundskeeper, and you know what happens, and it was just so pointless. But yeah, so give it a pass if you're on the fence about that one. And then the last book that I finished was Still Life by Louise Penny, which is the first book in the Inspector Gamache series. I've really been wanting to read this series for a while because I want to start getting into mysteries, because I've discovered that I really like mysteries. We watched Knives Out a couple months ago, August maybe. Loved it. Amazing. Just what a brilliant movie. And then never mind all of the gorgeous knitwear that I was just like fawning over the whole time. So that was a win for me, that movie. But then after that, I'm like, I need to start reading mysteries because I like mysteries. So yeah, and Still Life is a very classic Canadian series, and so I think book 16 just came out. So yeah, I want to get started on that. And the way that I understand it, each book takes place in a season, and then they are going in order like that. So this book takes place around Thanksgiving, which is in October in Canada. So that's when I wanted to read it. And I really enjoyed it. I liked the mystery, the setting, the writing, the characters. I liked all of it. So I'm looking forward to reading the next one, which takes place around Christmas. So that's when I plan to read it. Yeah. Listen to an audiobook narrated by Adam Sims, which was nice because I don't know French. And so it was nice to hear the pronunciation of all of the French names and words, because this takes place in a small town in Quebec. So yeah, I liked it, and I'm looking forward to reading more. I just always think about my friend Callie. She didn't like it because she didn't like the portrayal of hunting. And I'm not a hunter, so I have no idea if it's accurate or not. So sorry, Callie. I feel like I'm betraying you by liking this book. I'm sorry. So those are all the books that I finished, and then I want to just quickly mention a book that I decided to DNF, which was The Complete Stories by Flannery O'Connor. And I won that in a giveaway. I started reading it for maybe mid-rash, and I just stalled out and was not motivated to pick it up. So it's all of the stories, short stories that Flannery O'Connor wrote, and I think I got maybe a third to half of the way through. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I will say this. She's a good writer, and I want to read some of her nonfiction. The thing that I struggled with wasn't necessarily her writing style, but more the characters and the plots of these stories, because all of them, there was no hope in any of them. Like, it just felt like she had this lens on humanity, and it was just like we're all gross and disgusting and sinful, which we are, but there was like no redemption ever. Like, just the story ends, everyone's gross still, and just bad things have happened and no one changes. And after I don't know, a dozen of them, I was just like, wow. I hated all the characters because there's no redemption in them. So it was just like, ugh, I don't want to relate to you. And it all just felt terrible. And also there was just so much racism, which was hard to read, especially like just with what has been going on this year in discussions. And yeah, I just didn't want to read it anymore. So I just set it aside. I might try to go back and finish the stories, but I just am not motivated to finish it now. So, ending on a low note, I should have started off with the DNF. Because then I would have ended on a high note with Still Life. But yeah. So that's what I read in October. And I would say overall, very successful reading month. I enjoyed basically everything I read. And a lot of things that I'm looking forward to continuing on with, series and such. I feel like I've been staying away from starting series for a while because I want to finish some. But yeah, so I started a couple. But yeah, so let me know what you read in October. I hope I get a good reading month. And so far November has been an excellent reading month as well. Lots of good stuff. Looking forward to talking about it. Yeah. I hope they're having a good day. I've been watching a lot of New Girl. So apparently I just want to be like Nick. I'm Nick. Let me know if you watch that show. I think it's hilarious. So I've been watching that and I'm working on my Christmas knitting. There's so much Christmas knitting. I only have a month left. I don't think I'm going to get it all done, but whatever. Okay, so yeah, thanks for watching. I hope that you have a really good day, and until next time, so long. Thanks for all the fish.